Countdown to Jamaica 55, we revisit a piece of our past, the history of mento music in Jamaica with Herbie Miller, the curator and director at the Music Museum at the Institute of Jamaica, which is said to be the country's most significant cultural, artistic, and scientific organization, founded in 1879. Herbie Miller tells us what mento music is.
First of all, it's a style of music, a musical form, but it is also a song form, it's a dance event, it's a specific rhythm, each one identifying that sound and event as a mento event or a mento sensibility. There are those who claim that it developed on slave plantations. There's no real proof to that. There are others who says that it came out about the turn of the century. There's more credibility to that argument. By the turn of the century, the plantation system allowed for the infusion of European dance forms, quadrille for example. And mento took on some of those flavors, but with the interregional migration, it also drew influences from other areas in the Caribbean, in particular Trinidad and definitely Cuba. So you can date it safely to about the turn of the century, of the last century rather.
They say that I carry too long, forgetting that the Constitution is...
Mento is often confused with calypso, a musical form from Trinidad and Tobago.
Around the 1940s, calypso was to the world, certainly Britain, and to a great extent America, what reggae is today. Granted, reggae is much larger, but back in the 1940s, that was big. Because of its popularity, calypso became a generic term to describe most of the music from the Anglophone Caribbean. And so mento, or a lot of mento musicians, described themselves and were described as calypsonians. In fact, Lord Flea's seminal work on Capitol Records was called, it had the term calypso in the title rather than mento, though he was a mento musician. There's a film in the 40s made called Bop Girl Goes Calypso, or Bebop Girl Goes Calypso. Not mento, though it was a mento soundtrack. And so this generic term meant that it got more attention. It's not like today where it stands on its own. Back then, it was just called calypso, like the rest of the music from the Anglophone Caribbean.
Amongst the different instruments used in mento music is the marimba box, which is said to be the most unique of them all.
By the time Jamaicans started to migrate to Cuba, they came back with the marimba box, or what we call the rumba box. And that has become the symbol of mento, that and the banjo. So the sweetness really comes from the picking of the banjo and the feel that comes from the rumba box. Overall, mento is really a sweet music. In spite of the subject matter, just the music itself is really a sweet music. It's one of Jamaica's most important cultural innovations.
Mento music is making a resurgence and is shedding signs that it was dying years ago.
With the recent ascendancy and rediscovery of the Jolly Boys, who have become big stars. I mean, they've been touring, appearing in films and some of the top American wake-up programs, etc. You'll find that Mento has kind of had a resurgence in Jamaica and a lot more attention internationally than it had previous to the Jolly Boys coming out a few years ago with that record covering American beat rock and roll type songs.
Yeah. I don't got 70 days.
There are younger Mento bands around. I know Maurice Gordon from School of Music has a Mento set that he plays with a bunch of musicians. There's also a younger band called Mento Madness. So there is a resurgence and there is an extension from the root or the folk form, bringing it into a more contemporary form. It also has become a huge part of gospel music, Mento rhythms, as well as I hear it a lot in dancehall. So it's offered itself to infuse the infusion of modern or contemporary music. And so yes, there is a resurgence.
Slide mango, you name gonna bride. Slide mango, you name gonna bride. Mango get in a big for kitchen, take out one in big fat chicken, put it in left foot pocket. Slide mango.
That was your Countdown to Jamaica 55.
Countdown to Jamaica 55 is brought to you by
National Cream Crackers. No better country, no better cracker.